There are moments in Hollywood history that sparkle so brightly, we forget how much shadow lies behind the light. Behind the red carpets, the tuxedos, and the flashbulbs, the golden age of Hollywood hid its share of betrayal, not just between lovers or friends, but between truth and illusion itself. Johnny Carson, the king of late-night television, spent decades charming America with his wit and easy laughter. Yet behind the scenes, Carson carried something darker, a list he called the Golden Age traitors. It wasn't a list of spies or criminals. It was something far more human, stars who, according to Carson, betrayed the very people who loved them or the image that made them famous. He never meant for this list to be public, but toward the end of his life, close friends claimed Carson spoke of it often, a private reckoning with the hypocrisy he'd witnessed up close in Hollywood's most glittering years. Tonight, we open that hidden notebook and explore the 10 names Johnny Carson allegedly wrote down, along with the secrets he believed defined them. And by the end, one question remains. Were these people traitors or victims of a system that demanded the impossible? If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. 1. Rock Hudson, the face of the perfect man. The first name on Carson's list was one he said broke his heart. Rock Hudson, T.O. the world. Hudson was the embodiment of the all-American male, tall, handsome, every woman's dream. Behind the studio curtain, however, he was a man forced to live in disguise. Hollywood in the 1950s was merciless to those who didn't fit its image of masculinity. Hudson, a closeted gay man, was pressured by his studio to marry his agent's secretary, Phyllis Gates, in 1955. The marriage lasted barely 3 years. Carson, who admired Hudson's easy charm on screen, reportedly told a confidant that Hudson's betrayal wasn't of the audience, but of himself. They made him pretend to be something he wasn't, Carson said. And he played along because he thought that's what you had to do to survive. When Hudson's sexuality was finally revealed through his AIDS diagnosis in 1985, the truth shattered Hollywood's old illusion. Carson, then still hosting The Tonight Show, is said to have reflected that night in private. He was honest only at the end. 2. Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli, love built on a lie. The second entry was a pair, Judy Garland and Vincente Minnelli, T.O. the public. They were a fairy tale couple, the radiant star of The Wizard of Oz and the dashing artistic director who adored her. But in Carson's secret list, they represented the cruel machinery of the studio system. Minnelli, by most historical accounts, was gay, and MGM knew it. To protect both his reputation and Garland's fragile image as America's sweetheart, the studio arranged their marriage in 1945. Garland, already struggling with depression and addiction, became a pawn in a publicity marriage. When she gave birth to Liza Minnelli, tabloids praised the perfect Hollywood family. Behind closed doors, it was chaos, emotional abuse, drug dependency, and loneliness. Carson later told a colleague that Judy Garland was one of Hollywood's purest souls, destroyed by people who sold her image like a product. Her marriage, he believed, was one of the earliest and cruelest betrayals of personal truth for public consumption. 3. Mickey Rooney and Ava Gardner, the boy wonder's deception. Number 3 was, Carson said, the most brilliantly orchestrated deception in Hollywood history. Mickey Rooney and Ava Gardner. He was the beloved child star, the face of MGM's family values. She was the up-and-coming bombshell. When the studio feared Rooney's wholesome image might fade as he aged, they arranged a marriage to Gardner in 1942. It lasted just a year that Rooney's notorious womanizing and gambling habits clashed violently with Gardner's rising ambition. Yet, to the public, they remained the perfect young lovers, smiling for cameras while their private fights became legendary on studio lots. Carson later remarked that wedding was a press release with a tuxedo. For him, the betrayal wasn't only of Gardner, but of every young actor told to marry for headlines rather than love. 4. Joan Crawford and Frank Tone, the performance that never ended. Carson's fourth entry delved into darker territory. Joan Crawford and her husband Frank Tone. Crawford, ambitious and commanding, married Tone partly to climb further up Hollywood's social hierarchy. Tone, a classically trained stage actor, became both partner and accessory. Their marriage disintegrated under the weight of Crawford's obsession with fame. She allegedly used their union to gain entry into elite circles, and when Tone's career began to wane, she discarded him. Carson wrote that Crawford betrayed the man who loved her and the woman she could have been. Theirs was not a marriage, he believed, but a calculated performance. 5. Cary Grant and Randolph Scott, the forbidden roommates. The fifth name shocked even Carson's colleagues when they heard it. Cary Grant, the elegant leading man, and his longtime roommate, fellow actor Randolph Scott. For years, tabloids published carefully staged photos of Grant and Scott in their shared home, lounging poolside, cooking together, playing with dogs, sold as the image of Hollywood bachelor camaraderie. But many insiders, Carson included, believed those photos were coded confessions. Grant was married 5 times, yet rumors of his relationship with Scott never faded. Carson reportedly said during an off-air conversation, they loved each other, but the town wouldn't let them say it. So they smiled for the cameras and called it friendship. For Carson, their inclusion on the list was symbolic, a reminder of how Hollywood punished authenticity and rewarded illusion. 6. Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor. The marriage that saved a studio. 6th on the list, Barbara Stanwyck and Robert Taylor. WY all appearances, they were the picture of sophistication, a glamorous couple adored by fans. Yet, as Carson's notes suggest, their union may have been less about love and more about stability and image. In the late 1930s, MGM was under pressure to preserve its stars' reputations amid whispers about Taylor's sexuality. The solution was simple, a marriage of convenience. Stanwyck, fiercely private and rumored to be bisexual herself, reportedly agreed, both to protect Taylor's career and her own autonomy. They stayed married for 12 years before quietly divorcing. Carson's reflection was bittersweet. They betrayed no one but themselves. Hollywood forced them to live in costume, even at home. 7. Henry Fonda and Susan Blanchard, the actor who chose the spotlight over love. Number 7 carried a different kind of betrayal, not of image, but of emotion. Henry Fonda, one of Hollywood's most respected actors, married socialite Susan Blanchard after the death of his second wife. But according to Carson, Fonda's commitment to his craft overshadowed every relationship he had. Carson once quipped privately, Fonda didn't need a wife, he needed an audience. Their marriage ended when Blanchard reportedly told friends she felt like a prop between rehearsals. Fonda's dedication to his art became, in Carson's view, a form of emotional betrayal, proof that even integrity could become a kind of cruelty. 8. Bea Benaderet and the Hollywood loyalty test. 8th on Carson's list was a name less known outside the industry, character actress Bea Benaderet. Best remembered today as the warm, witty voice behind early Warner Brothers cartoons and the Beverly Hillbillies, Benaderet was also known in the 1940s as one of Hollywood's most loyal contract players. Carson's reason for including her was surprising. She wasn't a betrayer in the personal sense, but as he saw it, she betrayed her own talent by submitting to studio politics. She repeatedly turned down roles that could have made her a star because she feared losing her steady paycheck. Carson's note read simply, she stayed safe when she could have flown. It was a different kind of treachery, the betrayal of one's own potential. 9. Loretta Young, the secret she took to the grave. The 9th name was one of Hollywood's most shocking revelations. Loretta Young. In 1935, while filming The Call of the Wild with Clark Gable, Young became pregnant. To protect both their careers, she disappeared for months, later adopting her own biological daughter, Judy Lewis. For decades, the truth remained buried. Judy only learned the truth as an adult and confirmed it publicly after her mother's death. Carson, who reportedly admired Young's poise, wrote beside her name, "Her betrayal was born of fear. Hollywood's morality made saints into liars." To him, Young symbolized the impossible choices faced by women in that era, forced to choose between reputation and honesty, survival and shame. 10. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood and his silent crown. The final name on Carson's list was perhaps the most fitting: Clark Gable himself, the king of Hollywood. Admired by men and desired by women, yet haunted by the secrets of his own making. Gable's affairs were legendary, his marriages turbulent. But Carson's focus wasn't on his romances, it was on his silence. He knew the truth about Loretta Young's child, about other studio manipulations, about the broken lives that lay behind the smiles. And yet he said nothing. Carson's note, the last in his private ledger, read, "He knew, and he let it happen." The king kept his crown clean, while others were destroyed. It was, in Carson's eyes, the ultimate betrayal. Not by action, but by silence. Conclusion: the price of illusion. When we look back at the golden age of Hollywood, we see shimmering gowns, tuxedos, and laughter. But behind the glamour was an empire built on control, an industry that dictated how its stars should look, act, love, and even think. Johnny Carson's secret list, whether myth or memory, is more than gossip. It's a reflection of his own disillusionment with the world he entertained every night. These 10 stories of Hudson, Garland, Rooney, Crawford, Grant, Stanwyck, Fonda, Bernadette Young, and Gable form a mosaic of truth wrapped in tragedy. Each name reminds us that betrayal in Hollywood rarely looks like treason, that it looks like a contract signed in silence, a marriage staged for cameras, a smile that hides a secret. And perhaps Carson's list wasn't really about others at all. Perhaps it was about the city itself, a place that betrayed its own promise of dreams. In the end, Johnny Carson's Golden Age traders were not villains. They were the collateral damage of an illusion that America demanded and Hollywood delivered. And as the curtain falls, their stories whisper the same haunting truth. In the city of make-believe, honesty was the only sin.